I find it's a beautiful object. It's powerful because it automatically evokes something.
That is so cool.
What reactions the work provoke? Not waiting for a specific reaction, but just observing, because I was always really, really interested in human nature, how humans react instinctively. Is that you can't change a lot of people think, but what you can do is that you can provoke them to stimulate their thinking. And so that's what I used to love to do with my artworks back in the days.
So that the audience extrapolates the meaning in a way that makes you uncomfortable, and you find any kind of need to regulate the extent to which they interpret your work.
The only point and the only part where I step in is when they associate it to me.
What has been your proudest moment or proudest accomplishment so far in your career?
I mean, I have a Vogue cover.
Pleasure to meet you, and thank you for giving us access to your space. It's quite interesting. So first of all, who are you?
Shit, we all wonder this. I wish I could say, honest. I mean, I would say I'm a multidisciplinary artist. I like making things. I don't know if this is who I am, but I would say that it's a massive part of my identity at this point, because my work is my life. It's a thing that you choose, I think, if you go into a creative field where you decide to kind of abandon the corporate day-to-day, like the 9-to-5. You don't have a 9-to-5 anymore, you have a 6-to-6. You work all day, it's 24 hours, you never take a break, so it's your life. That's me at the moment.
Excellent. What does art mean to you?
That's a massive question, because I used to be a free artist. Like, I used to do sculpture, specifically only sculpture, and I really wanted to be a fine artist. But realizing that that's not a thing that you can, well, I mean, there are a lot of people that make this their living. I needed to find a way to combine my art with my life, with my work, with my salary. So you need to find a way, kind of. And I have a lot of friends that I used to do art school with that abandoned their entire artistic career because they didn't find like a middle ground where they could get good regular income. And I was always very, very interested in body horror and like body sculpting, and all of my sculptures that I used to do back in the days, they were also very, very like figurative, very body heavy. And then obviously when you're like doing research on your artwork, that's where I kind of like got into special effects techniques. I never thought that that was ever going to be a lucrative job, but I gave it a try anyways. And so art for me, or my art for me, is the chance that I've received in my life to continue doing what I love, but having it as a job. Executing other people's visions more than focusing only on my own personal art. I'm a lot less personal with my works recently.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Would you say your art flows through you or from you? Do you connect with anything higher than you? Do you see yourself as a conduit, a pipeline, or do you see yourself in a sense as the originator of the kind of art that you create?
I think it is definitely a pipeline. It's a pipeline because the themes that I work with, the visual language that I work with, those are things that are omnipresent. So I'm not an abstract artist. I work with what is already around, so it's the influence and the subconscious instinct that gets into me and then produces something, I would say.
How much of your art is autobiographical? do you, because I mean, you like to deal with, the tangible things, the grounded things around you, but how much of your journey and trajectory has been autobiographical in the sense of the overflow of your own emotions, whether it's good, whether they have been unpleasant or joyous?
It used to be at 100%, and now it's more at a 40. So I used to be very, very, very focused on my own personal journey. I used to do performance art, and that's what got me into sculpture because it was so personal. My performance art, having my body in the work, being myself in the work, that it started getting very, very intimidating and also very vulnerable, so I got hurt a lot. And then I tried to figure out where is the edge, how can I transform this feeling into something static in which I can take myself out a little bit. And I actually started enjoying a lot more staying in the shadows of the artworks that I produce. There are a few personal works that I work on that are still very corresponding with my own personal journey. And then the majority is just, fuck it, it's fun. So being a conceptual artist, you always try to kind of figure out a concept and you pull something out of your ass and kind of try to I was sick of it. I just like looking at something and saying, that's so fucking cool, It's like, I'm sorry, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah.
I think sometimes we get very fed up as artists trying to impersonate our own personal journey in the artwork, but it's also painful, and so I don't feel like I personally don't need to do it anymore. No.
Interesting.
No.
Interesting. Some artists create to solve problems. I know this is not something that is unique to the artistic experience. I would like to think art's expression, it just comes from the overflow of the need to create beauty. But I also find that some artists think more structurally about problem solving, about filling gaps. Do you ever factor that into how you process art? Or do you think thinking that way limits you in any sense?
There's so many questions.
Yeah.
That's true, there's so many points. I mean, the first point definitely being the medium that I work with is very, very technical.
Okay.
So silicones, plastics require you to have a certain expertise in chemicals, and it is a lot of try and error. So you work with very expensive materials. Means if you're doing something, don't fuck it up, because otherwise you're gonna lose a lot of money if you do the wrong components. I've already mixed the wrong stuff and it just doesn't cure and you lose a bunch of money. So that's the technical part about it. I feel like there were 3 questions in this. Wait, tell me again.
Yeah. I think you've executed the first aspect, because I think you're speaking about the technical side of things.
Exactly.
That's you have to consider that in the process, because it's problem solving in a sense. There are the variables around that, expenses and all of those things, trying to balance them out. So I mean, I'm satisfied with the response, except there are other perspectives that you want to explore within this. I think problem solving, filling gaps. Do you look at the world and see that there are certain things that do not exist that you feel have to exist? Do you ever feel that imperative to fill gaps?
Yeah, plenty, most definitely. I feel like you grow up being young, being full of hope, because you hope to kind of somehow change the world. You see that there are a lot of things that aren't right, and you wonder if being in politics is a good way, or expressing through art what you think and maybe feel. There's one thing that you come to realize is that you can't change how other people think, but what you can do is that you can provoke them to stimulate their thinking. And so that's what I used to love to do with my artworks back in the days, that I would expose these extremely grotesque sculptures and not give any context. So I would let the viewer completely decide what they see in it.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
When I look at that image or that sculpture, it of course evokes something in me. It's very symbolic to me. Across here, and the story, the narrative is incredibly powerful to me. It's the most powerful story to me. Or how do you connect with that? Or is this a class just creating something and allowing the audience interpret it in any way they want to interpret it?
That's a really, really good point, because I grew up Christian, but I don't believe in one God, personally. I would say that there's so much more to explore, right? It's like it depends on what path you choose, you know, but I was very, very fascinated by that dedication to something, and that's where I really see a lot of motivation for my own personal work, that dedication into believing into something, because I really believe into myself, into that work and everything. I work with a lot of Gothic artists and a lot of like alternative artists, and that's like it's bizarrely has been this obstacle, this object, like the crucifixes that are just recurring in Gothic culture, which have several reasons, but I feel like for me personally, there's not a strong connotation to it, besides that I just find it extremely aesthetically pleasing. I find it's a beautiful object. It's powerful because it automatically evokes something. It can be provocative, it can be hopeful, it can be associating to the people the way you can automatically expect. So I feel like, without rambling too much, I feel like that is exactly maybe a really good example of what I mean. It's like sometimes you can dump something into a space and you can explain it, but I prefer the people to think themselves.
Do you
see
ever?
What it means to them personally, you know?
Do you ever correct the audience?
No.
Is it that the audience extrapolates the meaning in a way that makes you uncomfortable, and you find any kind of need to regulate the extent to which they interpret your work?
The only point and the only part where I step in is when they associate it to me. So when they would, for instance, say, you're glamorizing violence. You are processing some type of your personal trauma with this, or you're into gore, you have a problem, you're trying to figure shit out, like you're a psycho or whatever, you know. That's where I would intervene. I feel like you can't tell people what to think, you know. I mean, they also have their own... That's my doorbell. Isn't that really cool?
Yeah.
So you have spoken about discomfort, creating uncomfortable art and edgy art. So I have two questions around this. First of all, when you create something disruptive, edgy, uncomfortable, where does that permission come from? Some people would think, you know, like they are a channel and the art flows through them, and in that sense the permission comes from something higher than them. Others might say the permission comes from themselves. In that sense, I would say they are gods to themselves. And I think those two pathways, there might be a third, I don't want to confine you, but where does that permission come from to say, I'm doing this, I don't care how the world interprets this, or what people feel about the art that I create?
I think a big reason why I went into commission work, because at the moment I'm working primarily as a freelancer as commissions. So I have customers coming in, they say, we have this fun project, we want this and this and this, are you able to realize it? And then we sit together and we brainstorm. So the higher power would be through the director, through the fashion designer, through the people that contact me that say like, hey, can we work on this? Can we bring this to life? Can we make this physical? That's my job, which gives me a lot of pleasure, where I don't even put myself into the moral position of, am I allowed to execute this? Because I give it into the moral hands of the creative director. When I used to do works that were purely filtered on what I wanted to express, I never asked myself if I'm allowed to have the permission, because I always felt like there was so much censorship in the world, and I think that really came with social media a lot, that we're thinking a lot more about what is possibly triggering people, what is too much, what is too little, what are we allowed to express, where like the boundaries, you know, of like censoring yourself also to not provoke. And I grew up in the art field where we didn't have to present on social media. We didn't have to think about all of these filters. We were working with so much nudity, with graphic sexual content. We were trying to push or maybe even satisfy a certain desire that we had in ourselves, where we said, we are not satisfied with the industry of art that we're in right now. Let's push it a little bit more and let's see the reaction. So there was always a lot of and the motivation that I had was very much curious to see what reactions the work provoke. Not waiting for a specific reaction, but just observing, because I was always really, really interested in human nature, how humans react instinctively without any morals, and maybe like even tap out and get out of their own social conformities because something like provokes them so much that they feel like they want to talk about it, or they feel like they hate it, or they love it and they see themselves in it. And
so you find, I mean, from the way you have answered that question, I sense that you find power in discomfort.
So I had more positive reactions than negative reactions to art.
Good.
So back in the days when I used to do a lot of figurative work, the most responded with a lot of, they would relate to the works, surprisingly. They would look at them and they would say, I don't know, but it's touching me, it's evokes something, it's like I relate. Or they would be also have the desire to interact with the work. So I have a very, very little amount of negative feedback, actually. There is,
excellent.
Which I'm happy about, but it's maybe also my audience.
Excellent.
Yeah.
What is the most difficult part of being an artist?
Surviving, paying rent. I'm gonna be super, super realistic about it. I mean, you can, if you have the financial middle ground in which you can just 100% focus on your art, I would say the most complicated thing there is figuring out what you want to create and the purpose of it. For me, at the moment, is the hardest part about being an artist, making sense in this world. Am I allowed to do what I do? Is it useful for this world? I mean, the world is going to sheds at the moment. It means we're all fighting for our lives. I feel like so many different levels, maybe psychological, political, financially, economical. We're all fighting. And sometimes I have moments where I arrive here in the studio and I tell myself, like, who am I that I believe that I can be here and do my little stuff that is so extremely useless for the economy right now. But I think that what keeps me motivated in those situations is that I make people dream, and people will look at stuff and they will escape from the day-to-day life that we have at the moment. So they come into this world and they're very fixated, and it gives them a moment to let go of the troubles they have in their day-to-day life.
It's quite interesting you speak about the larger world. I mean, we're living in the artificial intelligence age right now.
Yeah.
Do you find that in any way having any impact on your work? Do you use AI? Do you see AI? I mean, there are many industries that have been wiped out by AI. I do not think that AI threatens you in any sense, but do you find it to be something that, I mean, I'm probably speaking ignorantly, but how do you relate with things like AI, like artificial intelligence?
I think it's a tool. It's a really powerful tool if you use it wisely.
Okay.
But it's also a tool that vanishes all types of plastical arts, all types of physical arts, especially when working in editorial and fashion. The fashion industry is where I see this the most, I would say. It's like, why would you spend $100 on an artist producing a pair of fake horns or a pair of fake ears if you can just put a prompt into Photoshop and the photographer can do it himself? So everything that is image, it's really, really, really hard. It's a massive concurrent for me personally. And I would love to play with it more, but then I'd be my own enemy because I don't necessarily need it. When I'm working in 3D, I also 3D print and I do props and modelization. That's where I work with AI. Very, very rarely, because it helps me execute visions and drawings that are practical. But my industry is massively threatened by AI. In the film industry, things can be replaced. Everything can be digitalized, where we don't even have to bring the physical pieces into space anymore because it can all be done in post-production. So I think my industry is fighting against it. And there are a lot of film directors that refuse to work with AI because they want to keep that industry alive.
Do you think that can be sustained? Like, isn't that a kind of fighting a lost battle?
To be honest, I feel like it sounds really pessimistic. I gave myself 5 years. I think I'm going to stay in this field for another 5 years. 7. If it keeps the way it is now, unless we have a little revolution in the industry, I think at some point it's going to be blown out, and then I have no other choice but to go into another field, like medical supplies. Everything that is like used in the real world, we will still need that, but everything that is digital, which is like 80% of the content that we consume, I'm not very optimistic. Yeah.
Why medical supplies, for example? Do you have a medical background?
No, not yet. But I've always been extremely interested in anaplastology. So this is like all medical replica prosthetics that are being used for example, cancer patients. Arm replicas, eye replicas, veterans, everything that is like saving people's lives, of making them feel a little bit more normal. I think that is beautiful. Yeah. So that would be definitely a next step for me.
Oh, that's very interesting. Very nice. What has been your proudest moment or proudest accomplishment so far in your career?
I mean, I have a Vogue cover, but that's on paper.
Mm-hmm.
I think my greatest success in my life is having the studio.
Mm.
Yeah, being able to live of what I love.
Mm.
I did so many incredible shows, I worked with so many incredible artists, I was able to create crazy stuff through the hope and support of other people that I've collaborated with, and being able to get to the point where I can actually finance my own life through what I love doing, I think is the biggest achievement.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Do you believe in regrets? If you do you have any regrets?
No. I mean, because every experience that you make that feels like a good choice at first and it turns out being a bad choice, it brings you another life lesson. So, I mean, obviously it's like my mom would have loved me to go into medicine or going into law or something, and sometimes I'm pressured because I feel like, was this a good decision? I'm not gonna be able to buy a house probably anytime soon, you know, whereas I have other friends that started their families and they have their stable jobs and everything is just like so organized, but this is not the pathway that I chose, so I don't have regrets on this. I think you have troubles and you're frustrated sometimes because this field is so intense. I mean, I'm working on 5 projects at the same time right now, and I don't sleep, barely eat, I'm just trying to get everything done. But there's no regret in this, because it's all for a good purpose for me personally. So,
look into yourself 10 years in the past, and what would you tell your younger self?
To skip art school.
Hmm.
Skip art school and go directly into the industry. And not let the art industry define your limits and your boundaries. I think I really started censoring myself, and I started getting a lot more timid with the way that I express myself, and I had a lot of ambition and a lot of crazy ideas back then, and I didn't do them. And now I feel like I missed out on a lot of opportunities that I could have had when I was younger. Maybe earlier going into the world and not staying home for too long, traveling a lot more. Maybe just, yeah. But then again, no regrets, because through my art career and my art school, I learned that that is not what I want, so I found another way.
So if you're speaking to someone, a younger artist, tell them to just keep the system, the art school and any structures, or is that something just personal to you? Do you find any value in art school within the industry?
It's going to be a little bit controversial what I'm going to say. I feel like a lot of art schools, especially private art schools, are money machines because they feed off young creative individuals that feel like they can't make it without a diploma. And surprise, you get into the industry after your art school, you don't need that diploma. You don't, because your dedication, your hard work is going to define whether you're going to make it in the industry or not. And I feel like art schools are filter machines which obviously don't let you express exactly what you want sometimes. They still kind of try to feed you into this funnel of try to rationalize your work, try to find conceptualization behind your work, try to make it in the industry, but don't be too loud, cater to the gallerists, cater to the market, and in the end of the day, you're just another block in this massive machine of artists, and I don't know a lot of, I have all of my friends at art school, whether it be fashion school or free art school or photography, and none of them actually really said that art school is the best decision they've made. Go into art school if that's what you need. If you need time to discover yourself, art school is the perfect space to be in because you have the capacity to discover yourself, but only if you go into it with a motivation. If you go in there and you see and you hope for some type of burst to come your way, I don't think that that's going to happen.
Okay, excellent.
I have old friends that I used to do art school with that were like, aren't you ashamed of yourself for abandoning the art industry? Where it's like, I'm still in the art industry, it's just that it's like, I'm not running after gallerists to like go buy my shit, and I don't like that industry. It's very, very, very capitalistic, and we're all capitalists, you know, so obviously, but it's just not.
It has to be. Some
I'm
spaces
not gonna
that
stand
are
somewhere and be
created.
like, so my art is about the juxtaposition.